Hello guys, this is Jerry speaking. After this emotional statement about what's gonna happen next between the podcast show and Rodney, we're gonna react to Purple Tales podcast episode 18. Now, we haven't done this Purple Tales podcast reaction video since weeks ago because I became busy and inactive with that because it's been over a month since I haven't done reaction videos for Purple Tales podcast. So let's begin this episode 18, called The Evolution of Barney in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Hold on. Turn it up some.
Continuing our look now at the best in children's television. This morning, the new kid, or dinosaur on the block.
The big purple reptile that kids can't resist.
The big purple
dinosaur.
Teaches about love and it just kind of like soothes the kids.
And always, there's that signature song.
Okay, like, share, subscribe.
Awesome,
I thought I'd better
Nancy.
start
Awesome,
the show
Nancy.
the way we want Purple Tales podcast to be thought of.
So smooth.
Did you like it? I
You did.
finally
You
took
did
it.
well.
It takes me a while.
You got it.
But I got it.
You do have it.
So here we are, Carrie.
Yes. What a week. After having Pia on last week, she really, I think she really touched a lot of people, inspired a lot. She inspired me.
Well, and I know some of the
Wow.
comments have said that they're going to go to Lion King on Broadway
yes.
just so they can see Pia.
Absolutely. When I love the story, right, of going to do it for 1 year, and now she's 6 years. And
I think that was
Okay. Wow. I didn't believe it. So, yeah, just want to let you know. Let's continue on.
like you and Barney.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it for a couple of shows here, and I've got this job at Chili's.
yeah, exactly.
that I can always go back to.
Yeah.
Anything stick out for you about the Pia episode and maybe some of the comments you've gotten?
The number one to me was the fact that it took her 2.5 years.
Oh, whoa, hold on. Wait, we want that?
Pia episode and maybe some of the comments you've gotten.
Is that her hand? I don't know. The interviewer hand. Okay, let's continue on.
The number one to me was the fact that it took her 2.5 years of auditioning to get through that show, because that's the reality of this business. Anyone that's ever been in this business understands, the first thing you need to get used to is no, because you're going to hear it a lot. And the fact that was her dream and she didn't stop and she did it, pretty inspiring.
Yeah, that just recently I was going to tell you about The Lion King. Now, I saw The Lion King in Fears, the remake, in this earlier before after it came out in Fears. I'm like, okay, which is the same day, and it was so exciting. So that's just, there you go. Let's continue on.
I've got something I want to share with you real quick.
All right.
And this is one of these studies I found, and a lot of it has to do with why in the world and how was this Barney created? I mean, why a dinosaur?
Sure.
And I hope we get some of that answered today with this very special guest we've got coming out. But here's the thing. The incredible knowledge of children about dinosaurs is based on a phenomenon that in the field of psychology is known as intense interests.
Okay.
It's a very strong motivation for a specific topic, and they say a third of children develop at some stage throughout their childhood, as a general rule, usually between 2 and 6,
Okay.
an intense interest in something. A lot of times it may be trucks,
Sure.
but dinosaurs top the list because it's kind of, you do have to use your imagination,
Sure.
and kids can learn all about dinosaurs and maybe know more than their parents.
Sure.
Wow.
So I just thought that was very, very interesting.
Still,
It is interesting. Especially a huggable, lovable dinosaur.
Well, that's true, and especially when they're purple.
Yes.
Yep.
So, Carrie,
Yes.
I think that should lead us up to our guest today.
There's so many ways to describe. I've known her for a long time, and it's so exciting to have her here. She was from the very beginning. So she was a director of sales. She was the senior vice president.
So maybe she can answer
she
why
was-
it's a dinosaur, huh?
We had mentioned before, she was also Cheryl Leach's neighbor. This is Debbie.
Oh, really? She was a neighbor? God! I didn't know that! Debbie Ries? Well, I watch on Everybody Clap, Everybody Sing documentary about her and the last interviewer, which I react to on LJPCBM Reacts. And I'm like, really? On the neighbor? Okay. Continue on.
Okay. Debbie.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here.
And you can see, look at all the things she's brought. We've got a lot of people are going to be losing their mind. They want to see these Barney plush and these Barney. Well, here's from the beginning. Some amazing stuff here.
So let's start with your being in the neighborhood with Cheryl, but I know you came from another country.
I did, actually.
All right.
I'm an immigrant.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. I'm actually a citizen now.
Well, thank goodness. Okay.
So I came in 1986, and I was a school
I did not know that.
teacher
From Canada.
from Canada.
Okay.
And
I did not know you were a school teacher for the Canadian. Oh, man, this is so awesome. Anyway, let's continue on.
And I had 3 children, and my oldest was going to kindergarten, and I couldn't work because I didn't have a green card. So I got very involved in the neighborhood. I volunteered at the school. There was a ladies group, so my neighbor across the street, Sue, and I ran the toddlers activities, and that's how I met Cheryl. She had a toddler. She brought him to our events, and she also volunteered at the school, so we met that way.
So how did you get involved with Barney? I mean, was this something that she was already doing when you met her?
No,
Because you were part of the focus group, right?
Right. So she said to me one day, hey, we'd be interested in your perspective. We're having a focus group at my father-in-law's house. And, we have someone coming from a video store and someone coming from a toy store and, some other people. And would you like to come? And I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, why not? So I went, and it was in Plano at that time. It was the countryside.
Plano,
Yeah.
I was driving through this, and I thought, oh, man, this might be the last they see of me. But we sat around the living room, and they asked questions. And Barney was a snuggly at that time. He was a little blankie that was going to come to life. And
He was a blanket.
Mhm.
I did not know he was a blanket. The snuggly. Okay. Did not realize that. But anyway, let's continue on.
You're going to hear a lot of stuff
He was
you've
like a
never heard before.
like a little lovey, how little children have that. And so we had that focus group, and we all went away. And sometime later, Cheryl took her son to see, there was a traveling dinosaur exhibit in Dallas. And she went to see that, and Patrick, of course, loved the dinosaurs. And she said to me one day, well, what do you think? Maybe, what about a dinosaur? And I was like, well, that's a great idea. When I taught school, there was always years where it was crazy dinosaur mania.
That interest, that intense interest.
Exactly as you said. And they could say all the names, pterodactyl. And here's someone who can barely say mama. And they're like, pterodactyl, and all these big names. So I thought that was a brilliant idea. And then Dennis came up with the colors.
So where did you get involved?
Dennis DeShazer.
Yes.
I know. I feel like, now you're making sure, but I feel like I know him.
Yeah.
You do.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Okay.
Yes.
So then, how did you get involved with this?
So then Cheryl went off and produced. She actually hired Sandy Duncan to be in the first 3 episodes, which turned out to be genius because.
Which I didn't know. Because she hired Sandy Duncan. Because one thing, I reacted to the Dinosaur Sensation documentary on episodes chapter 1 thing. Because I said in the reaction video, the Backyard Gang thing, I'm like, okay. Didn't realize they're coming out with the documentary. Pretty soon, I'm planning on doing it on my own because of two reasons. One, I already finished BNF vlogs. And 2, I just got done with a series that I come up with. I haven't finished season 7 as of yet. So let's say we're going to get to season 8 through 14 in just like a year or 2. Let's see what happens. Let's continue on.
it really helped us keep those buyers on the phone for another 4 seconds. They tended to hang up quickly. So she hired Sandy Duncan, and they shot all 3 shows.
Wow.
The Backyard Gang, 3 Wishes, and A Day at the Beach. And then when they went into post and were ready to, she's like, oh, now we have to sell it. So what's the plan
You
A
became
for
a mommy
selling?
blitzer, right?
Exactly. So they came up with this idea that the neighborhood ladies would sell them, and we'd get, I don't know, let's say 25 cents a unit that we sold. We had to sell them in groups of 4. And yeah.
And they called you, what did they call?
We were mommy blitzers. So it was the neighborhood ladies, and they had a training session. But I was on vacation in Canada, so I missed it. And when I came back, the list had all been dispersed to these people who took the training. And my friend across the street gave me some of the pages from her list.
Ooh,
So I started calling, and then they called me from the office saying, what are you telling people? Because you're selling a lot more than anyone else. And I was like, really? Okay, well, I'm just telling them what I see when my children watch Barney and how he teaches them to play, and they go out and imitate what they see on TV. And I love that as a teacher and as a mom.
Well, let's role play. I want to know what you know. I want you to tell us how, if you're making a phone call, what did you say?
So,
And who are you calling? And who
Oh
are you
my
calling?
gosh, the worst list ever. We only sell kites. Okay. I guess you wouldn't buy a video then. But occasionally, you know, Florida, New York, Texas, those were kind of the states that tended to be more open-minded. And so I'd say we have this dinosaur with Sandy Duncan. And by then she was doing Hogan's Heroes, which gave her quite a bit of street cred. And I'd say, you know, it's so great. Kids watch it. They learn so much. And sometimes they would buy.
And this was when people not only answered their phone, they didn't know who was calling, and people were selling things on the phone.
100%.
Which, it's not even good enough. But it's, oh my God, help me out here. Well, I mean, what just happened to Barney, you know? Even though they didn't sell well, I mean, what happened here? Continue on.
And yes. So
there's
I
no
think
social media. There's none of this.
Yep.
So this is what I was selling.
Look at that.
Oh, man, I remember this. Well, the tape I used to remember, but not these audio cassette tapes in the book. Well, I saw the book on the back, on the, what's it called? Best of Barney bonus featurette, but not the audio cassette tape. I haven't listened to it yet, so I'll get a chance to listen to it on the LJPCBM Reacts episode. Depends on my schedule, so let's see what happens. So let's continue on.
So it had a book, a video.
That is
and
the
an audio.
first, right?
Yes, this is the very
cassette
first
tape,
title.
The very
The
first.
VHS and a book, and it's still all wrapped up.
It didn't used to be yellow. It was clear plastic.
Oh, really? Okay. I wouldn't have even noticed that.
Yeah.
And so you were familiar too with that.
Well, this was before me.
But
Oh,
that
yes.
was what you used to train yourself, was what, the video?
That video, yes.
Yeah.
That video is the video that that
That's
Sloan
a special
gave me.
video for you. It was
Yeah.
a training video.
That turned out to be my training video, absolutely.
So a quarter for every one of those you sold at that time.
And the winner got dinner for 2 at the mansion. So
Hey.
I got 90-something, 92, I think, and then the next person was in the low 30s.
Wow.
So you got dinner at the mansion.
So I got dinner at the mansion. And then when the second one was ready, which was, 4 or 5 months later, there were just 3 of us.
Okay, she called the people who weren't doing it.
And then for the next one, I think I was the only one.
How does a teacher who's talking to children and teaching children and learning, making them learn and having that kind of a life, get into sales?
I struggled with that, actually, because I thought people who sold were kind of slick and maybe not honest, and that kind of whole thing about salesperson people that you think. And so I had to kind of convince myself that really in life, everything is about selling, selling yourself, your idea, your point of view, your children on their bedtime. It's all a process of convincing people. So I kind of talked myself into believing that it was okay.
Right.
Still.
But that was a transition I had to make. And I think the reason it worked is I believed it.
Mm-hmm.
I believed every word I said. I saw something in Barney that was just so special. And I saw the way my kids acted from watching Barney, and I just thought, this is it.
And it's so funny. I did so many events and different things with you and with the whole sales, and they were always like that. They just believed. They're not. They believed it. They believed the products.
That is 100% the truth. We were all passionate. We all believed that we could do this and that this was important and that it was important for kids. And we never said kids. They were always children. We never, we always held kids in the highest of respect.
Yes.
And when people wrote and said they needed something, we had Donna Fankhauser was the head of our customer service. And if people needed something or wrote something, she went over the top to help them, to get them what they wanted. Because we wanted every experience to be perfect.
Wow.
But you had no idea where this was going to go in terms of a worldwide phenomenon.
Actually,
Ah.
we did.
Oh.
This is kind of crazy. And I look back on it and I think, wow, we really were drinking the Kool-Aid. But 5 of us went away on a retreat to the Leach, Austin Lakewood house.
Wow.
And we talked about what we had in the pipeline and what we were doing and what our goals were. And literally on that page, before we had any reason, any facts to base this up, there was a movie, there was a fan club, there was a TV show, there was a magazine, there was, international. It was all on that piece of paper.
And none of that had that was just pure.
It was craziness.
Imagination.
It was. It really
What year
was.
was that?
I am guessing that it was about 1991 or late 1990 because I'm pretty sure it was before we did the Neiman Marcus
Okay.
program. But I think we might have talked about it potentially becoming a real possibility.
Wow.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
Barney did change quite a bit. I know you brought some of them when you first started, say before, you had your piece of paper and knew kind of what your projection was going to be. Barney was a little different.
Yes. So when the first 3 shows, Barney was a true purple. And under the cameras, we didn't know that. He kind of went blue. So he looked much more blue than was the intention. And he was more angular.
Yes.
And honestly, telling tales out of school, but when I first saw him, I was like, really?
Right.
I was a little bit surprised. But, it's funny. It's like anything. Once you knew him, you loved him no matter what he looked like.
Well, and did you bring a picture of one of the early days?
Well, you can tell even.
Oh, there we go. Okay,
yeah.
For those of you who are listening,
Wow. Okay. This is cool. The early day Barney. This is cool enough. That's Barney? Really? And then I didn't know. Let's continue on.
Yeah, he's blue.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you can see his nose is quite square.
Very square.
And his head is a little less rounded and
a
soft.
turquoise dot on his back?
Well, no, that's actually green. Back to green.
See? Okay.
It's green.
And that behind Barney, that's my youngest daughter. So she's probably, I'd say 3 or 4 there.
Wow.
Nice.
So that would date us to about 1989.
Yeah.
Well, so then when did Barney become the Barney that we know and love?
So for the television show, when we actually went on PBS. But we were in the video business and we sold videos direct to retailers. And as we built the distribution, we got a lot of letters from the fans saying, my son and my daughter, they're sleeping with a video box. Could you come up with something a little softer than that? We were like, yeah, okay, we probably should.
Mm-hmm.
So we did these little plush.
Oh.
And these actually, the 6-inch one, we only did as promotional items. So there was only 6,000 of these made. But the 14-inch, we did more. And we couldn't get anyone to license them. No one was interested. So we got Dakin, who agreed to manufacture them for us. And so then we had to sell them ourselves, which we did.
Which is pretty smart.
Wow.
Yeah, it worked out really great.
It worked out really well.
It did. But at one point, we sold video into retail. We sold plush into the toy department. We sold audio into the music department and books into the book department. So we had 4 different buyers that we were calling on, and we started a retail development team as well to kind of pull it all together and help with driving the business.
Well, how did the colors come about then? How did you get the dots and the greens and the yellows? And
So when we went on PBS, we did a more, we wanted him to be purple. So
Yeah, ignore these people. I don't know what's going on in the background. Let's... Huh? Sorry about that, folks. Continue on.
we understood how the camera then changed the color, and we went with PMS 246, which is the Barney purple color.
PMS 246.
Yeah. Specific.
Like, where did you find? I mean, what does that stand for?
Well, so if you want to do a color and you want it to print a specific way or to be a certain dye color, there's a PMS book, and I guess it's a recipe. I don't actually know for color, and it's that specific shade. So once we did that, then we wanted to also change the plush to be a little more in keeping with the Barney. But 246 was a little bit too pink. So all the Barney plush is 248. Too much to know.
Oh my gosh.
So then he looked like this is not, this was not a for sale item, but the little, so this is the color.
And this is
the
Western,
new
little
shape.
Western.
Yes.
Oh, and we see his teeth.
Mhm.
He's got a hat on and a vest, a little
Yes.
leather vest.
And we did these for special events. So that's why you have that press one.
Right.
And this was for a video
Wow.
convention that was here in Dallas. So we
Wow.
felt like it really had to have a Texas theme.
So you got to put him in a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the thing that people are going to be losing their mind about is we need to talk about that one right there that's on
The big
this
one.
Is, everyone asks about the plush. Well, this is the real deal right here.
This is the show plush.
So this was on the TV show itself.
Yeah, and you can see that it's a little bit woolly.
There's
The
texture to him.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness.
And in addition, these are
Wow.
just glued on.
Okay.
And
So when an episode and you would see Barney and then later Barney would appear, this is what you would see right there.
That
one right there.
doll.
That was not for sale. That is.
Yep.
The other thing that's very special over there, we all remember how big Talking Elmo was.
Sure. Oh,
Well,
sure.
before Talking Elmo, there was Talking Barney.
Yeah. Wow.
And for the times, he said over hundreds of phrases and sang,
Oh my gosh.
which was pretty amazing
Wow.
at the
No,
time.
delightful phrases. Not just phrases, delightful phrases. Oh my gosh. Oh my, and the super heavy duty brand batteries are included.
I've seen that.
Oh my gosh.
It was very nice to have
Did
the
you, now,
batteries.
who would write all, is
So
that
Hasbro actually did this.
okay.
Wow.
This
and,
item.
and it's all still wrapped up. That's what's amazing, because so many kids we've heard from, they don't have them anymore. They've been ruined, or they got lost, or
Yeah.
something.
Well, we all kept. I know you have a play. I've got a
Right.
storage unit. That we a lot of us still have all this.
So one of the things that was part of my job was when we were transitioning from this Barney to this Barney, we had to change the color, and you'll notice he has 5 spots.
Okay, 5
Wow.
green spots on his back. Okay.
So off I go to Korea, because at that time the manufacturing was done in Korea. And we're working on patterns and what things cost. Remember, I grew up on a farm in Alberta, and so I'm like, oh, I'm here in Korea. Wow. And I find out that these little spots on my new plush are going to be 10 cents each. I was like, oh my gosh, 50 cents for the spots? That's not going
50
to work.
cent per dinosaur for this, just the spots.
Yeah.
The Korean manufacturing plant. Oh.
So I come back and I'm like, Cheryl, like I can't do 5 spots. I can only do 3. And she was like, yeah, okay. But I want 5 spots. She was like, well, Debbie, someday they won't even notice. And I was like, okay. So that's how Barney only got 3 spots.
Oh, so those are just stuck on that the
Yes, these
Barney,
are,
so
yeah.
you just had this little extra.
Yeah.
So you were responsible for this 3 spots because it was just too expensive. Isn't that funny? Too expensive. I mean, think about that now. Too expensive for this franchise.
Well,
right?
And here's something else that'll blow your mind that this woman is responsible for. So last week we had Pia Hamilton on.
Right.
And her character was Min.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guess who came up with the name of Min?
Yes, Cheryl asked me, she said, we want to have this character, and we want her to have a Filipino and something else name that would be appropriate for that. And she said, could you come up with some ideas for us? And so I did all kinds of research, went to the library.
Of course you did.
Called my cousin in Hong Kong, because she had a Filipina maid. And I was like, and came up with the name Min. Mm-hmm.
So,
I feel like we're kindred spirits.
What about the other names? Just
No.
men, but that's the most unusual.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice job. Very nice job.
And isn't it funny?
And you just had
We
men.
were going to have her on last week, so.
So what was this about Neiman Marcus? And I know JCPenney did some things too.
Right.
Well, we got to talk about Neiman Marcus because
Okay.
our executive producer, Chris Kraft, his wife, I mean, they were very involved
Okay.
in this. So they were talking earlier about the whole Neiman Marcus.
So one of the things about Barney was that it was always the 2-year-olds. So if we had a difficult buyer or someone who didn't understand, we'd try and find a 2-year-old around them, like maybe their admin or maybe someone else in the office, to get them to watch the video and see, because then we didn't have to explain it. And there were these women in Dallas who loved Barney because of their little children. And they wanted to license Barney for stamps. So we called them the stamp ladies because we licensed them. And they did roller stamps and stamping stamps. And they were, one of the women was the wife of the president of Neiman Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. So we had a Neiman Marcus program in September of 1991. And it was incredible. We had a shop within a shop. They had plush that was exclusively designed for them by Gund. They had, the sleeping bags, Barney globes, just, dozens of things in a big footprint.
Wow.
I have pictures of that.
Well, who thought of all these different things for Barney?
Well, so then once you have somebody interested, that's the easy part because you're like, what else would kids like and what would parents like to have? So we did a lot of room decor for Neiman Marcus because we thought that's something that Neiman Marcus clients would like, customers.
And did it do well?
It did great. And it was kind of a shock, I think, for Neiman Marcus because they had Barney appearances in a few of the stores and like 6,000 or 8,000 people came.
Crazy.
And that's not typical traffic.
And you said you had a couple of pictures.
I do.
Did you do some of those?
Not on Neiman Marcus.
Oh, okay. See, that's the thing. You never know who's in that suit, except it's more than likely you.
Right.
Look at that.
Oh my God.
Wow. Okay. Barney in the top hat. Okay, that is just cool enough. Let's continue on.
Oh my gosh. Look, you have Barney in a top hat because it is Neiman's. That's good. So you got Barney in a top hat and all the little goodies there. And look at all that stuff.
I mean, they did it up grand. Like, this is all wooden fixtures designed specifically for the Barney shop.
I never had really noticed his little nails.
His toe balls, yes.
His toe balls? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Back in the day, they didn't really look like that.
Yeah, they became toe balls.
Yeah.
Wow.
We, in the early days, had little yellow tennis balls. So if a toe popped out on the road, I could get these little plastic ones that we got from a real discount store. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that was, again, one thing that came. Then the other thing that we went from Neiman Marcus to JCPenney.
And that's where I came in.
Okay, good.
So JCPenney was moving their headquarters from New York to Dallas. And a lot of people in New York thought that was a really bad idea. And they, in fact, were here in the Lincoln Center when they first came, before they, when they were building in Plano. And I went to a presentation that the CEO of JCPenney did, and he talked about their values and so on. I thought, this is just like Barney.
Wow.
We need to be in JCPenney. So in keeping with your persistent story, I searched for like over 2 years to get to the right person at JCPenney. And once I found them, then the president of the children's division's grandson, Max, was 2 years old.
There
Sensing
you go.
a theme here, right?
Yep.
So Max loved Barney.
Wow.
And the JCPenney program was going to be, they had their own plush. They wanted a book. So, well, I guess we're going to have to publish a book, which is what we did. Also apparel and so on and so forth. And one of my friends at JCPenney was telling me, you know, every time we have a meeting with Henry, we go to pull him back and it just gets bigger. Wow. So this is before PBS. So he was really taking a chance. He knew Barney was going on PBS in April, but he had no idea what that would actually mean. He just really believed in what he saw. And so, and one funny side story on that is, so in January, we have to sign up all these licensees and have product in market in October.
Wow.
Which is crazy too fast. Mm-hmm. And we're at Dick's house again, sitting around the table, and they call a licensing consultant in New York. And they said to her, so what's the buzz on the street? And she said, I've been in the licensing business for a long time, and there is no JCPenney promotion.
Wow.
No, there's no licensing. I was like, oh, I did not want to hear that. But in fact, she was wrong. Mm-hmm. They had 187 products that hit the stores in October, and our first appearance was October 4th, I think, in Mesquite, and over 40,000 people came.
Yep, that was my first appearance.
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so...
Yeah.
So he's in the store at first, and we're, you know, getting the kids walking. They're coming through the mall, through the store, and past Carrie for a quick little hello and on. And then we realize the store's going to close. There's no way these kids are all going to see Barney, and that's not acceptable in our world. Yeah. So I guess Sloan must have thought of it. You'll have to ask her, but they got a convertible. And Barney walked the line, then he got in the back of a convertible, and they drove that line outside, which was a mile long.
Yeah, I was afraid I was going to go off the back of the...
And were you sitting on the back of the back of the car, just trying to wave with your little hands?
And hold on.
Yeah, let's not tell your mother.
Yeah. She learns more and more things that I do that she shakes her head. I think someone was holding my legs.
I'm sure they must have.
Yeah,
and otherwise you could have fallen back.
Right.
You know.
Just spread out the...
Sure.
Yeah.
Which would not have been good in front of the children.
No. Or for Carrie's health.
That's true.
That's true, too. Well, so what about when you went back to Canada? Now, here you're this... Now, when you went to Canada, were you this big, successful now marketing executive for Barney?
Well, I had a niece who loved Barney. Okay. So with her, I was sort of godlike. And also my sister-in-law, she loved Barney. And in fact, in December, we were just at the Universal Studios, and we dropped in on the Barney show. And my sister-in-law wanted to stay for the whole thing. And she especially wanted to hear the Everyone is Special song.
That's awesome.
Wow. So she still remembered all. You got a little tear. Did you get a little teary in that?
It was kind of tender. And what was interesting, not surprising, the millennials are the ones who are coming with their children. But what surprised me is they said lots of millennials come without their children. And they watch the show, and they sing, and they dance, and they get up off on their feet. And I was like, oh, wow. Because that was so important to them.
And that's for 25 years, almost 25 years now. That show's been there with, you've had Harry Potter and all these things that have come in, and Barney's still going 25 years.
You're right. You know, like Jaws is gone now.
Terminator, I think it came and left. And a lot of them did. And there's still Barney going strong.
So Barney does still live I mean, if not in your heart and your mind, he's at least in Florida.
He lives in all
and
our
I tell you, they've done an amazing job. It looks beautiful. They've kept it up really nicely. The show was great. There was lots of confetti and sparkles. Sloan would have been happy.
Sloan would be very happy.
So, but you all did an event together in Canada, didn't you?
Oh, the Toronto one.
Yeah.
That was a crazy one. It was interesting because when you do an event, sometimes you don't think through all the details. And this is an outdoor event, and we've got all these strollers. So we start ticketing them, here, and park them. And there's literally an acre of parked strollers. And the front page of the Toronto paper the next day was a huge photograph of that, and it was titled "Stroller Gridlock."
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing.
How did anyone know which stroller was theirs?
That's what I said. Thank God it was Canada, because those Canadians wait in line. They were polite. They let us struggle to try to figure. You said it was green? There's 100 green ones here.
Wow.
It was really crazy.
And you
It
remember
was.
Toronto?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We also had to disinfect the costume because, when you're in there, Carrie's working hard and gets kind of stinky in there
Sweaty.
a
Yeah.
little bit. And we used vodka. We would spray the inside of the costume with vodka, which would kill the bacteria, and then it evaporates quickly.
With alcohol.
And there's no smell.
Yeah, that's what we'd normally use.
Yeah,
But it's not because of the stinky. You know why they did that, right?
Because Barney needed a drink?
No.
I
Because
know,
it
of
would
course.
break down the costume.
Oh,
The
'cause
sweat would break down.
Ah, interesting.
No kidding.
Yeah, it would break down the
I think it worked two ways then.
it would break. Yeah, I mean, obviously it helped for that
Yeah.
part, but
But it didn't
we were the
seem
same
to.
people getting in, so we didn't care about the stinky. But it would actually preserve, and that's why we also
Ah.
used to wear winter silks.
Yeah.
Like you would go
Sure.
for that same reason to hold the sweat on us.
Get little bottles of vodka and just...
We did. We went to the bar and we're like, oh, could we have 4 vodkas in the bottle? We had to buy the little ones.
Really?
Yeah,
Kids, don't try this at home.
Yeah,
Don't,
it was-
Exactly.
forget the vodka.
Exactly. Yeah, don't try it at home, folks. So, that's just me. Let's continue on.
That's crazy.
And Sloan said, I'll never do another outdoor event. But she did.
She did. We did several of them.
We knew not to ask her for a while.
What do you think, coming from an education standpoint, I mean, as a teacher, did that help you relate to your audience?
I think it did, yes. And, it's an interesting fact that Yale University did a study on the Barney shows, the PBS ones, and they're 26 minutes, 30 seconds, something like that. There's over 100 teaching moments in each episode on average. And it's little things like, you should have Marianne come in. Because
Marianne is...
Yeah.
Yes. So teachers were involved with each episode. They went over the educational part of it, as well the other aspects of the show.
And let's say you were counting, and so you might be like 1, 2, 3. They would have you count from left to right because
Wow,
that's the same
photograph.
progression as reading.
Oh.
So little details like that the rest of us wouldn't notice, but they paid really close attention to that so that every moment that could.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Tasha, Sean, Michael. Wait, who are these 4? And of course, Brian, whoever this was. Let's continue on.
A teaching moment
It
was.
So did your kids just think you were the coolest mom ever?
They actually would roll their eyes sometimes. My oldest daughter was like, yeah, they call me the Barney girl at school, but she kind of liked
Oh,
it.
sure.
Oh, look. Okay, here we have the Barney girl.
Yeah, she's to my whatever that is.
Yeah, we've got the picture up, and there's Barney.
And then my daughter Catherine is hugging Barney.
Oh,
and my
Oh,
daughter
I see. Okay, let's continue on.
has her eyes closed.
Oh, but I love her little haircut.
yeah,
Bowl cut. That's so
Yeah.
cute. And look at it. Oh.
and I'm about 100
Some
years
of the
younger
original
there.
cast kids you're seeing.
Yeah, Michael.
Okay. And your
And
kids
Sean.
were in some of the shows, right?
We did a concert. Our very, very first concert was in Allen in 1990, and all 3 of the girls were in that concert.
Oh my goodness.
And then the Majestic concert.
That was the big.
Alexander was in it, and so was Penny's daughter.
Yes. Who?
Wow.
I was going to mention this the other day. Someone was sent out I loved Kelly at Radio City Music, Radio City Live. Well, that was Miss Penny's daughter. She.
Right.
Yeah, a little
Right.
bit.
Right.
She was in several.
Right, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot that.
Yeah.
And it was a family affair. We had that concert. Like the dads took the tickets, the kids stuffed envelopes. We all worked on various things just because it was such a family thing.
And fun.
So-
It was.
I mean, you know what? Everyone was happy. Your audience was
Exactly.
happy.
Mhm.
You didn't have to worry about anyone being sad or, perking someone up.
Right. Well, it was a lot of work, and some days were tough. We took a lot of rejection in those first few years.
Such as?
Well, like hanging up, straight up, people would click the phone and we'd be, okay, next.
Wasn't it true that Blockbuster?
Blockbuster's a really fun story because Cheryl was trying to get
Let's
them.
remind some people about Blockbuster.
Yes.
I mean, really and truly, not everyone remembers
But that is how
Blockbuster
you
is
got-
where you rented your videos.
You
And they
got your
probably
movie
had
VHS.
20,000 locations. I mean, they were
absolutely.
bigger
You
than
had a
big
Blockbuster card.
franchises and so
Yeah.
on, yes. And
It was huge.
she wanted to do a promotion where you videotaped your child singing and dancing. You send it in, and the winners got a walk-on part on Barney. So the corporate office said no. But if you want to do the regionals, and you can get a regional or two, whatever, to do it, then go right ahead. She got all the regions to do it. So therefore, she had a national promotion. They were furious. They were like, yes, you can do this, but, tomorrow I want to talk to you about how you managed to pull this off so it never happens again.
She went around the system. Yep.
Yeah,
Go over everybody's head.
No corporate blessing, but it was, in fact, a national program.
Which is what ended up Barney Video being in the Connecticut.
Yes, with
That's how we got on PBS.
yeah, Larry Rifkin's daughter, Leora,
Yes.
loved Barney, 2-year-old.
And she rented the video, which he said, oh, maybe there's something here. Next thing you know, we're on PBS.
Man.
Well, it was a little longer than that. They called us.
But you can do this with
Overnight
everything.
sensation, right?
Yeah, they
Not
called
so-
us on May 2nd, and this is what he said: "Welcome to PBS." And we were like, "Yes." We'd stayed late for the call. They didn't call, and they didn't call, and we were like, "Oh man!" And then the phone rang.
But then that didn't they take it off of PBS?
They never took it off.
Oh, okay.
What
It
they
was
said was
canceled.
what they said is that we're not going to make any more shows. So
Okay.
in effect, that's being canceled. But it wasn't that they weren't going to air the shows that they
Okay.
had, but they were no more because they could do the other two shows that they did in that same initiative were Thomas and Lamb Chop, and they could do both of those
I
shows
did like
Yeah.
I was a lamb chop
for the
kid.
price of Barney. Well, people went nuts.
Oh, you're kidding.
They went crazy. And there were articles like, take away my apple pie, take away baseball, but don't touch my Barney. And
Man.
literally thousands of people wrote their PBS station, phoned their PBS station, picketed their PBS station, and within a very, very short time.
Yeah.
Hello, we changed our mind. We found the money.
But were you
Funny how they do
afraid
that.
that maybe it was going to stop there? Did that
No.
ever occur to you?
No, it didn't. No, I don't think any of us thought. Because we saw we had 1 million people in our fan club. It was just there was too much momentum there.
And once
You knew
again,
it
think
couldn't
about
stop.
that. This is not through social media. This is not through 1 million in the fan club.
Yeah, and we would send out packets. I have one here. That gave you a membership. That
Just I mean,
It's even
if you're
that
watching it, there's stacks that Debbie has here for sure.
so this is Cheryl's
Oh.
handwriting.
Oh.
So it must have been a note that she sent to me about this. Let's get this weighed with all the stuff that would go in it.
So you can mail it.
Because we mailed it. It was so expensive to do.
Well,
such a
if you
large
couldn't afford the
club.
dots, how could you afford the stamps? Right?
Yes, luckily we didn't start with 1 million. But Lynn Carlton managed the fan club for many, many years. And then she
Wow.
worked over on your side. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So one other thing that I forgot, I wanted to go back.
There was was there a review or was it that?
There was, the
Yeah,
Backyard
that's so
Gang.
cute.
So our very first video, we got reviewed in People magazine. We were so excited.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is a bad photocopy.
So what is the best?
Oh man, this is a newspaper for that. Okay, that's fine.
What is the one thing that stands out to you on that article? The
So
review.
he writes, there's a primitive 50s feel to this live action videotape designed for children the ages 2 to 8. And then he goes on to kind of bash it a little bit. He leads the kids through colorless performances of a few familiar songs, many of them perverted with stupid new lyrics. This old man, for instance, turns into I Love You. The half-hour tape is the first in a projected series developed by Cheryl Leach and Kathy Parker, blah, blah, blah. They might be better off expending their energies in the direction of those two demanding pursuits, in other words, motherhood and teaching.
Oh my God! What was his name? Go ahead. What's his name?
He was pretty wrong, Ralph.
Ralph. Where's Ralph today?
Ralph Novak. Yeah.
Oh,
he kind of missed the boat on that.
But you think about it, for Cheryl, like somebody put it in the office, and we were a little heartbroken for sure.
Sure.
And it was just the first video. So talk about like needing to persevere against all odds. And Dick Leach, her father-in-law, said, you know what? The only bad press is no press. And we all went, okay. Yep, that's right. They're talking about us.
And he wasn't your audience. That's the bad thing about critics, too. He wasn't your audience.
And that was one thing. Barney was really pure and true to the children. So it was really designed every bit for a 2-year-old. And if it strayed a little, you know, we were always pulling it back. Hit the mic.
That's okay. So was there ever a time when your friends said, what, I mean, like in the early years, what are you doing? I mean, or was your husband on board? I mean,
it was so under the radar. I think nobody really thought much about it. And then when it took off, they were like, wow, how did you know that would happen? Yeah.
There's that. Absolutely. Oh, my gosh.
But once again, it wasn't happening like you would see it today.
No.
Because we didn't know, like, it was happening. You know, I would go on the weekend and see 50,000 people. But not everyone knew that. I mean, you heard Jeff Ayers when he was here in our first episode.
Wow.
He really didn't know how big it was because he was just in the studio doing it, living in Dallas, Texas.
Well, especially you were on the tour and you saw the kids,
so
but you didn't know. But I mean, at the same time, you
had no idea.
You saw.
Well, and we really saw it with when Carrie went on the road because 40,000 in Mesquite, it was the same everywhere he went. And before the Mesquite one, I met with Pennies and we were talking about it, and they said, oh, we've done Boys to Men and celebrities. We've got this. The next day, they were like on the phone at 8 a.m. You need to come out here. We need to figure this out. This is like crazy. And that Mesquite store, there wasn't a piece of clothing on a rack. Everything was on the floor.
Destroyed.
It was destroyed. And I said to the store manager, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You know, we'll help you. And he said, no, you guys go. This is the best thing ever. I'd do it again tomorrow.
Man.
Well, and, you know, Dennis DeShazer was with me in Irving, where he had to actually go get a van. And they had to get me out of that mall and throw me in a van and drive off. And he said, I'll never go to one of these again.
Yeah, it's security.
Well, and he tells this very funny story of this lady came up and she wanted a balloon. They'd already given up all the balloon. Everything was gone. And she said, who do you work for, Barney or JCPenney? He goes, JCPenney.
That's great.
Good one.
That's great.
Good one. And then didn't you get an award from JCPenney?
I did.
Oh, my goodness.
I did.
What, Carrie? Tell?
I not only did we get an award, it was Kathy Schumack and myself that did all of them.
What did Kathy put together the show? Or what?
No, Kathy Schumack traveled with me, so she was the representative with Barney, making sure everything went well and all of that.
You know, that they would remember that to give him clearance when he came out.
Got it.
You know, all those details.
Watch the kids, make sure I was okay, all of those things.
His bodyguard.
The coolest thing is that they...
His Barney guard. I just came up with that. Sorry.
No, the coolest thing was that they gave us a gift card, something. Anyway, I was able to buy a TV with that. And I was 20-something years old, and I thought that's the coolest thing ever.
Well, and you got, I remember like
I got an award at the
statue or
TV,
something,
so I thought
right?
it was 24 years old or something. I'm like, this is cool.
But I will tell you, they told me, because it was Jackie Dunn, it was her department that kind of managed the marketing side of that. And she said, we've done all these celebrities, all these tours, music bands, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, Carrie was the nicest person, always happy, always willing to go the extra mile. Whatever we asked of him, he gave it 100%. And they just had never seen that before. And we're just so pleased with everything.
Thank you for that. That was such a growing period for me because, once again, I was 24 years old at that point. I had never seen anything like the love that these children had, and waiting hours and hours and hours and hours. And they were so excited for a hug or a high five or whatever it may be. There was no way I was ever leaving one of those kids. If they wanted a hug, we would stay hours and hours and hours to do that. And it was incredible. And then it was so funny because we'd go from one mall to the next. And so we'd stop, somewhere to get food. and I'd be sitting having food with all the people.
Oh, we just be
Kathy and I'd be in there having a hamburger, and everybody like, oh my God, I just met Barney. It was the coolest thing ever.
Oh, no.
And I'm sitting right there because Kathy and I are just smiling, having a soda.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And you never gave it away.
Never.
That's another thing I wanted to be sure and tell. They came to the corporate office for all kinds of things. We'd go to the set for all kinds of things. I never, ever saw them speak in the costume. Ever.
Yeah.
Like they totally were Barney when they were in it, and that was that. And you know, we were friends, and so
come on,
yeah.
sure.
So I'd be talking away, and the actions would come, but never a word. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was such a incredible experience to see how real. I mean, he was real.
Yeah. I completely agree. We did not think of Barney as a character ever. He really was someone to us, and. Sometimes our buyers would say, well, I think you bleed purple. And we're like, yeah, I think we do. Yeah. It's literally true.
Is that the Barney magic?
Well, here's the funny thing, and we've talked about this, and I thought it was interesting when you said earlier your side. There was the creative, the business side, and then the other side, and we called it Barney Magic. But what did you call it?
Yeah, we called it the Barney Rainbow because in our world, magic maybe had a bad connotation. So we called it the Barney Rainbow, and we saw it all the time when things would just come together magically. And then if we actually saw a real rainbow, we thought we'd hit the pot of gold. But it really, you know, like an example, we also did those special events, and we had a call from a family that said this child was very, very ill and really wanted to see Barney. And we did everything to try and make those happen. But we just straight up didn't have a costume. And we were like, you know, we'd do anything, but we physically don't have a costume anywhere near. And near New Jersey or wherever it was up in the Northeast. And he said, oh no, you misunderstood. That's where I'm from. But the child is in the Las Vegas hospital. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're there for VSDA, our video convention. We have a costume. Instead of, you know, a meet and greet with our customers, he's going to the hospital. And that's, you know, and that happened a couple of times where just by some miracle, we happened to be there. Things fell together and we called it the Barney Rainbow.
And it was such a humbling experience because I did all those conventions with you guys in Vegas, and I get to do the convention. And of course, it's Vegas and fun and all that. But I always got to do a hospital there. And it's just such a humbling, uplifting experience. I've always said I got so much. I always believed that I got so much more from those kids than I could have ever gotten. The lessons and the love, and it was incredible.
And to watch a child, I can think of one particular one, and I was there with a couple of my teammates because we actually were in Toronto to do business. And this child was in Hamilton, which was a 2 or 3 hour drive. So we were like, okay, so the meeting's going on the road. And at the hospital, it was so hard to see these children. And we wanted to be sad and wanted to cry. And we were just like, no, by golly, we're going to be happy. We're going to be uplifting. You know, we're going to bring the Barney message, and we'll cry later. And we did.
Because they never did. You never saw the kids sad.
God. We have this one beautiful video of the little kid. Barney walks in, and he pulls back the covers and lifts up his feet, and he's like, Barney, look! He's got Barney slippers on.
Oh.
And he's so happy.
And he knows that Barney's... You never saw him nervous, right? Because he knows Barney's going to be interested. He wants to see the slippers. He gave attention equally to every one of those kids.
For sure. Yes. And we would have people who would say, you know, I'll spend $10,000 for Barney to come to my kid's birthday party. And we'd be like, sorry, we don't do that.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Oh my
Once
gosh.
we stopped, it was a full stop, but we would do anything for someone who needed Barney.
You have made so many people happy. I mean, that's what I get out of this. It's amazing how many lives you have touched and continue to touch. How would you say, Debbie, Barney changed you and your life?
It was a huge change. So for me, I was a mom with 3 children, staying at home. I was a teacher, and suddenly, overnight, I am running a big sales organization. I'm traveling around the world. I'm introducing kids in different countries. You know, Barney was in over 220 countries.
Wow.
And we sold enough videos at over 135 million. That's more than one for every household in America.
Wow.
We sold, you know, I forget now, it was some crazy 100 and some million books as well. And you just think about the scale of those numbers, at how many people, if there was a 2-year-old that didn't know Barney, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
That Barney album that was shipped out double platinum.
Before it actually hit the streets, it was double platinum, and then it was triple platinum after it was actually for sale.
But there was a lot of emotion behind every sale, wasn't there?
Everyone, yes. You could join the fan club. You know, we did a program once where Barney could phone you on your birthday, and it was, yes. And I think that was the beautiful thing. It attracted a certain kind of person to the business, and who bled purple. And it was an amazing time, and we really knew it as we went through it. We're like, we're doing something so special that people only dream about happening to them. You know, I never told people what I did because I didn't want to get into that. I did it all day long, and I traveled a lot. But Barney would always come up, and I'd be like, oh, and they'd say, oh, yeah, and I did all the Barney t-shirts, and I'd be like, mm-hmm.
Well, what I loved is, I love that this message keeps coming out, because when I first started, I had people going, "Oh my God, you guys are making all of this money," and da 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 da. They insisted on taking us to these hospitals. When things like that came up, all of the employees would try to make something happen. If, like, for example, the Vegas that she just told was always about that. Whatever we can do, we were always about that. The tour, you heard Sloan talk about it. Every city, she insisted going into a hospital. It wasn't about having the press there. It was about Barney going to see the kids.
Yeah.
And that was a core to the business.
It was. And in the early days, you know, this is, I think, another good example of the kind of people. They knew, you know, we were trying to build something, and it was hard. And we had an order that had to go out, and it had to be overnight. And it was really expensive, like maybe $6,000. And we were just dying a little bit about it. And one of the guys in the warehouse figured out, if we get it here at 3 o'clock and load that truck, 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, and load that truck, we can get it in a truckload, and it'll only be $300 or $600. And so he asked for volunteers. Would anyone come help load that? Everyone volunteered.
Oh,
wow.
Everyone. So I mean, that's it. There is blood, sweat, and tears, and so much love and smiles in all of this Barney world.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to start this show for that reason is that all of these people that know, that love him so much, understand we loved it, we loved you, and we put everything we had to make it happen. It wasn't just about making money.
Yeah, it was about passion and commitment.
Passion and love and commitment.
Ownership.
And we got excited about the numbers, too, because, I mean, it was a validation that Barney is that special. Like, everybody wants that. And that was a real, to see that and realize, wow, like, all those kids have a Barney plush now.
And we're doing it from Dallas, Texas.
That's right, which was kind of good, under the radar.
Yes. But then 19 years you spent with Barney. You have your own company now.
Yes.
You do your marketing and things. So do they all know about Barney, all these clients of yours? Do you?
They probably do, because
they will
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But in addition, just through the company, we brought the Wiggles to America. We did.
Oh yeah, I just saw that from this. Everybody saying documentary, which I'll get that in LJPCBM Reacts episode. Let's continue on.
We launched Bob the Builder. We brought
which is boring. VeggieTales is so boring as well.
Tales to the general market. We
yeah, these two are so boring.
We launched Angelina Ballerina.
Angelina Ballerina is kind of catchy to me, anyway.
We built Thomas the Tank Engine up.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
he was already great.
Right, but
we
sure,
helped make him greater.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it,
still.
you know, it touched a lot of really amazing kids' properties.
But the best.
Which is cool enough. You know, I like some of it, but Bob the Builder and videos are just so lame. It's, yeah, excuse my language. In this react videos. Continue on.
Part, Debbie, is that you still love Purple Tales so much, and
I
Barney,
do.
you've listened to all of our episodes,
Everyone.
haven't you? So have you subscribed?
Yes,
Have you shared?
I have.
And have you
Liked.
liked?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well then you've got some homework tonight. Okay,
That's right.
Debbie Ries, thank you so much. Is there a
you.
song that you'd like? I loved it. I always like it when we have a song to
know.
take us out. Do you have anything you want to sing together, you
What was
guys?
your favorite song?
Should we? Well, I would do this for my sister-in-law, Susan.
Okay.
Okay.
You are special.
All right.
So, do you want to start it? You are special, special. Everyone is special.
I gotta dance or something.
Everyone in his or her own way.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Special. You're supposed to join in, Nancy.
I don't know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's from everyone special, so there you go.
Oh my God, and
Thank
all
you.
of the toys and stuff. And Carrie, this has been wonderful.
It has
The
been
business
fun.
of Barney.
Yeah, and there's so much more.
I know. You'll be come back.
Okay.
Okay. You will be back.
Still. So that was Purple Tales Podcast, episode 18. Sorry to hear vacuuming in the background. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far, this episode went to be a success, better than the Pain Game Podcast episode 60 episode. So there you go on that. Anyways, double episode for LJPCBM Reacts episode 368. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be the Purple Tales Podcast episode 19, the Q&A episode. But until next time, this is Joe saying goodbye. Peace out, baby. We get more to react to you guys very soon. But until then, Jeff will say out. See ya.
Given unto me this life I'll never take for granted, and given all the time I failed to really understand it, I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening. But I tried